Welcome to High Voltage SLC. I am Brandon Long. I'm the host of Van Sessions, a show where we feature musicians outside of a van. And we are here on Tyler's show, actually. Tyler, you are being interviewed today, or spoken with, conversation with. Is that what we're going with?
Yeah.
And Jace. So Grace and Silence is your band.
Yes, sir.
I know you have been working as a duo for some time now, and working with some fill-ins with a bass and guitar. But how's that going? Where are you at? And are you putting a record together? It's what all the people want to know. Where are we right now?
Well, it's going actually really great. We are finishing up our album right now. And
how many tracks?
8 tracks.
Oh, it's good.
And we have a more consistent drummer now, and we're sounding a lot tighter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, EP album, whatever you want to call it.
Sure.
I think it's like kind of right around the length of like bordering on being an album.
Okay.
But, not really worried about that, because at the end of the day, most people aren't going to listen to full albums anymore, release a bunch of singles, but we've just been trying to put a collective work out. And
is that the ultimate goal, to create an album someone's going to listen to all the way through?
Of course.
Yes.
I think that, because I know Jason and I both listen to albums front to back just because that's how we enjoy music. And I feel like it's always a great goal to be able to create something that would make someone want to listen to a full hour straight of it.
Right.
You want it to impact them.
Jace, What was the last album you listened to all the way through?
I actually Ride the Lightning most recently, just because we were playing a lot of Metallica lately, and I just really love that album. It's probably one of my favorite albums to listen to front to back.
Totally fair, dude.
Yeah.
What's going on in metal right now? Is there a newer band that you can, because Metallica, let's face it, they've been around a couple years, but that's true. You can listen to their albums all the way through, no problem. Are there bands out there right now that you're liking, 2024 new stuff that you can listen to the full thing?
Gojira.
Okay.
Gojira is one of my other favorite newer metal bands to listen to. They've got
Knocked Loose. They're obviously ridiculous. Bands like Fox Lake, Fame on Fire, Architects. Even some of Bring Me the Horizon stuff I really dig. Of course, you got bands like I Prevail. Love their work too.
I Prevail's really good.
Metal, I think... I also really dig Sleep Token. They get a lot of shit, all the time. And I think it's probably just because of how fast they got popular. And, everyone wants to dog on them, but I feel like they have some great work as well. And so I think metal really is just kind of doing this. It's just getting a lot wider, the sound.
Yeah, where are we at with metal in Utah?
I mean, we've got a pretty decently sized local scene. We've got lots of metal bands, and it's growing very quickly. We've played with some very a lot of other local bands like Alaskan Ice Fishers, School Page Scribble, stuff like
Doom Cupcake. Of course, we've opened for bands like Acacia Ridge, and there's a lot of hardcore bands in Utah as well. That's kind of primarily what the Salt Lake scene has been for a while. It's kind of like thrash and hardcore bands.
All right, so how do you separate yourself? I was listening to one of your other shows, and you were talking about how, imitation is a thing, and sometimes, there's only so many chords out there, and there's only so much you can do. So how do you position yourself as a band to be a little bit different from the rest?
I think that the way that we approach... Actually, this is a great question.
Thanks.
No, I think the way that we approach arrangement's very different. And I think you just kind of have to go with what feels right to you, And oftentimes, we take a little bit of inspiration here and there, but what we do is what we do. We don't try to be like, oh, well, this is this kind of song, so it has to be within these confines. It's like, well, let's add a whole, laundry list of things that we might like and just see what works. And I feel like that way you kind of end up with something that is more unique and just more original, but still built on the foundations that you love,
What happens when you have something pop into your head, either one of you, that's like, I like this, but it's not in line with sort of what we're playing? Is it time to try to implement that and maybe go in a different direction? Because there's been a lot of bands that have been creative and used their creativity to some success, and then there's also bands that try to be creative and it falls flat.
Well, we do come with a lot of new riffs, and we try to put as many of those as we can together, or really go through as many different options as we can. And sometimes some of them just don't work out, and we put them aside. We record them, and we'll just put them into a folder for later, and we'll maybe go back and look at them and get some inspiration. But that's right.
There were about, I think in total, as far as the amount of songs that we've started and written and then selected down to the final 8, I think there's about 15 or 20 that we went through. Mm-hmm. And so oftentimes it's like, oh, this riff doesn't really suit us, but it's still good. Mm-hmm. Maybe someday we'll come back and see it with different eyes, and it'll be, oh, I like this part of it. We can use it here. I think it's just about being open to when your taste might change, Mm-hmm. Even if I don't like a riff now, if Jason's like, oh, that's cool, or I, play it to somebody else and I'm like, oh, it's cool. It's like, even though it's not my taste right now, I'll put it away, Maybe that'll change. Maybe in a year I'll listen to it and be like, this is great. We should make a song.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Grace and Silence, new record coming out. Jace, let's get into your background a little bit. When did you first pick up a guitar and start playing?
It was a little over 4 years ago now.
Oh, not that long ago.
No, not too long ago. Yeah. I have a grandparent who is decently, he really enjoys playing guitar. He mostly plays acoustic though. And I remember I was listening to Hell's Bells by AC/DC, and I remember I'm like, oh, all that sound is guitar I'm hearing, like all the main riff and all that. And I realized I wanted to learn how to do that stuff, so I asked my grandpa about guitar, and I started learning on an acoustic, and then shortly after that he gave me an electric guitar he got when he was younger.
What songs did you start out learning on the acoustic? Is this like John Denver? I mean, like, what do you start with?
I was going more towards the electric guitar route and more rock and metal. So I learned Smoke on the Water. That's really almost every guitarist's first song.
Okay.
Just stuff like that is what I started with.
Okay, and then how long were you playing until you met Tyler?
Probably about 2 years, and then I decided to start taking lessons at School of Rock, and they have a great program where you get put into a band.
And he's wearing a School of Rock shirt.
You're actually wearing a School of Rock shirt right now. And I met Tyler, and we started playing together, and he asked me to play a show, and I did, and we just kicked it off from there.
Tyler, did you start in EDM?
Yeah, so I mean, that's the first music I ever
That's
recorded.
That's a transition. Okay.
Yeah, so I've done a lot of different kinds of music, and I don't know, I love so much different music.
Yeah.
My first love musically is classical piano, and that was my first thing that really got me into music.
Do you still play classical piano? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Frankly, mostly 18th century romantic pieces, obviously you got Debussy, Liszt, stuff like that.
Are you going to implement any piano into intros of your music?
We already actually have a song on the new record that's not a single that has a piano part.
Okay.
And I'm really, really stoked. It's awesome. One of my favorites.
Awesome.
And I don't know. I think there's always ways to implement, stuff like that. I mean, metal inherently is very classical. The roots of metal are very, very classical,
So it wasn't this big leap, I guess. But
no.
EDM to metal. Where did you, what happened there?
No,
One night you're like, I'm switching gears.
I started recording electronic dance music when I was probably, 12. I just was really into it. Mm-hmm. And so it gave me a lot of time to practice using DAWs like Logic, Ableton, and also I got to learn about sound design because it's just kind of customary in EDM that the person who's making the songs is also producing them and mixing them. It's very often the case. So I don't know. I've always been into EDM, always been into classical music, into psychedelic rock. I've always been into prog, into metal, and so I just make whatever.
Well, then when you produced the EDM, I guess that gave you a little bit of experience, and so how has that translated into your, producing metal music?
I think mostly just in understanding. I got to learn a lot about arrangement, making EDM music, like how to build a song and take it places, especially where a lot of EDM doesn't have any vocals. So the story that you're telling or the journey that you take the listener on is purely, harmony and melody and rhythm. And so I think that just gave me a basis in understanding how to formulate a song from start to finish. And then also I got to learn about how to use different effects, how to EQ different instruments, how to layer instruments, and make things just kind of fit together.
Mm-hmm. So how much layering do you do with your music now?
Honestly, not too much. I think the very most tracks we'll have in a song is maybe like 50 to 60.
Well, you did record advanced sessions with us, and we had a backing track to that, which was fun. And so I'm assuming, is that what you typically do on live shows?
Yeah, yes. We because we currently don't have a bassist. We just have a drummer, 2 guitarists.
Yeah.
So we have a bass track, and frankly, people haven't seemed to really miss it, but we want to get a bassist.
We want a bassist.
We just haven't been able to find someone that really fits what we're doing. But yeah, and then the tracks have like all the synth stuff, and then we play to a click.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what's up with finding a bassist? Do we need to teach more people how to play bass?
I think so.
Yeah, probably. It's just we're very strict on what we're looking for. We just need someone that has all the commitment and effort and wanting it as bad as we do.
Mm-hmm. Well, so what is the plan then? You guys are committed. You're putting out an album. You want to go. You're playing shows. So what's the process look like? How do you, what are the steps to make? This is a question I'm always curious about when we ask all the bands that come on band sessions. There's a lot of bands who they know it's a hobby. It's just fun for them. That's what they want to do. If they make a few bucks, great. And then there's a handful of bands that they're in. This is what they want to do. And now they got to figure out how to get out of Utah, essentially, how to become discovered. So what's the plan?
And I think that, in some ways, nowadays the artist has a lot more hand in what can happen, as far as how you promote yourself, how you use the tools around you to be able to promote yourself, And it's all about creating more ways for people to see our music and see our brand, whether that be shows, releasing more music, or whether it's building spaces like this. Right, that give us more of a platform to create visual content, to create better social media, get those numbers better, because that's just a big part of it. You've got to be able to play the game.
Right, and because I'm older, I've watched. I'm interested in say the X Games, like snowboarding and things like that, and rock climbing. And early on, these athletes, they had to learn how to use social media. But now, a little younger generation, younger musicians, athletes, they kind of know, like, well, they were playing with social media at a young age. But then it becomes, should I be creating a new song, or should I be working on my social media game? Like, so how do you balance? Because it's another task that you have to add on to your daily schedule.
It's really hard, and I'm not even going to pretend like we have that balance figured out yet.
Yeah.
Okay.
But frankly, I think we need to spend more time doing social media. And I don't know. It's a good question. It's kind of what everyone's asking, is how do you balance these new elements of being a musician? And I don't know. We're just trying to work our way through that, I suppose.
Yeah.
I mean, it's tough. We don't know how we should be posting, what we should be posting, who's going to see it. We try to post about shows, at least. I mean, we try to post once or every other day to try keeping consistency, and we found that helps a little bit.
I like the idea of the show. I think the show is fantastic. to put the brand out there, like you said. My question would be, and I think it was Taylor Swift was a YouTube at first, so that can happen. But who was the band that was signed off of an Instagram post or a TikTok post? Like, is that happening?
I think it's more that you're trying to figure out what is your reason the label wants to sign you. And back in the day, that could have been that you had a large following in your area from touring and, releasing good music and being a great live band, right? But now, if you don't have those numbers, frankly, labels aren't going to look at you.
So what about the live show numbers?
That's also a big part.
Okay.
And that's why we love to play tons of shows.
Yeah.
And that's really important to us. But at the end of the day, we have to be able to create a fan base, not just here, but how do we get our music out? And I think that social media is a huge hand in being able to create, I guess, social proof, frankly, is the best word.
God, it sounds awful.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it's like, why do we have to prove ourselves to you? But it is a way to, and I think you used the right word earlier, is to create a community. So if you can create a community around the band, and that's your brand, that's your culture, the people that follow you and come to your shows, and that's the best way to use social media. And then, throwing in a little high voltage like this,
For
SLC kind of brings people into the fold and helps, I think, bridge the gap there.
Yeah, and this channel is relatively young, and we've got a couple thousand subscribers on this channel, and it's just about the consistency, and we just need to make sure that we're getting the content for the music out there, because we think that the music's dope, and we think that it's something worth listening to.
Right. Okay, so now we're going into Fantasyland. You're famous. Who are you touring with?
Gojira.
100% Gojira. That would be like a dream tour would be playing with those guys. That's
Gojira,
like
100%.
Like, I don't know if there's a single band on the planet besides Metallica that I would rather open for.
Metallica, yeah. I mean, we got two people in the room right now wearing Metallica shirts, so I don't think that band's ever going to go away.
No,
they're
here forever.
Nor should it.
Nor should it. Jay, you had a Hard Rock Cafe hat on from San Antonio. Did you go there to grab that hat?
Well, my parents did, actually.
Okay.
They went there, and I requested them to go get me a hat from the Hard Rock Cafe.
The only reason I ask is because I was there. I've been to that specific one, and I don't have a hat to prove it. So.
I had them get me a hat and send me some pictures of the guitars and the museum pieces.
The one on the Riverwalk? It's pretty cool.
Yeah. I wish I was there.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Well, touring. Where would you want to play? Because you're in Utah, playing a lot around Utah, northern Utah, I should say. So, where are some places you would like to go that's on the bucket list to go play?
Probably some of the venues in LA. Like some of the older, like the Whiskey Go-Go, that's one I really want to play at, like eventually.
And of course, we want to hit, Seattle, New York. And I don't know if that we necessarily have like tour paths mapped out right now. I think our current focus, because we want to play everywhere.
Yeah, I'm thinking more of like venues that you've seen throughout your life. You're like, oh man, one day I'm going to play that venue.
Oh, Hellfest.
Yeah, like there's some festivals that
that
we that are like at the top of our mind.
Yeah.
Same with Aftershock.
Yeah, that would be a really cool one.
And the only thing we can do is just work as hard as we can to get there as fast as we can.
Yeah, Tyler, what does that mean? What is the work that you're doing when you say I'm working as hard as I can? Is that more songs? Is that more social? Is that more live shows? All of it? Like
all of that is true. I mean, my practice routine is just like 6 to 8 hours a day on the guitar to just continue to improve as a musician, sing every day, write every day. I guess it's just getting better, right?
So you're working. So you're actually, do you time block? So you're like, because you can't just rely on the music to get you there. So every day you're getting better. So you're practicing. Okay.
Of course. I mean, it's my job to make sure that what I can do is so worth your time that it's not able to be ignored, right? And that only comes from thousands and thousands of hours spent harnessing that ability. That's the only thing you can do.
That's a very good way to put it.
You know.
I want to dive into craft just a touch because I usually touch on that as well in my show.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm always curious because I don't write songs, but I also hear things in my head. And I think, that would sound cool. Is that how it works? Do you hear lyrics in your head, or do you hear, like riffs in your head and you're like, I gotta figure this out. I gotta write this down. Where does the songwriting process come for you guys?
You want to start?
Yeah, for me, sometimes like you said, I'll hear riffs in my head, or maybe I'll be listening to a song and maybe an idea will come into my head. A lot of it's just ideas, and then finding out how to play it on guitar and refine it into the riff it becomes, and then bring it up to the studio and we'll work with it, and maybe it'll turn into a song.
Yeah, and for us, it really does start with the music, just because I don't know. I really struggle to write lyrics first. It's not something I've ever been very good at, but I can always put lyrics over a piece of music. So for us, it just starts with maybe we hear a little bit of a melody, we hear some chords, and as soon as we get that down, then we start to figure out how the lyrics are going to go over.
It's funny you say I could always put lyrics. Does it feel like a struggle to keep a cohesive story going in the song if you've got the music first, but then you're trying to overlay it with words?
I think that also has a lot to do with arrangement. How much time you give yourself. How long are we playing this section? How much time do I need to give myself lyrically to be able to do this part? And that's where we go in and edit the music again, to fill. But a lot of the times, sometimes I'm not even writing about a story. It's just what I'm feeling at the moment, and there's no timeline to it. I'm directly communicating just what I'm thinking and how I feel,
Well, what are the next shows coming up? What are we doing?
We've got one this Friday at Black Lung. That one, I think
tomorrow.
Doors. Yeah, tomorrow. Doors are at like 7 or 7:30, somewhere in there.
Yeah, so it's going to be our second ever headline show, and it's also a release show for our single Drown, which comes out tomorrow.
Congrats.
And I'm really excited for that one.
Yeah, good. And then so that's lined up, and then what are you looking at in the fall? What are your plans? Are you going to keep pushing live shows, or are you going to kind of dive into the studio?
I think that once fall hits, we're trying to get one more festival planned for the year, and then we've got a few more shows, but we're kind of gonna go into practice and writing hibernation for a little bit. But
writing hibernation, I like that.
The fall and winter, it really slows down for live shows.
Yeah, for sure.
So then we really take advantage of the time we have to start writing a lot of music.
Yeah, no, for sure. And especially where I'm finishing my last year of high school, that'll become a little bit more of my time.
Right.
But yeah, we're just going to spend a ton of time writing, and then of course the record comes out in September.
Book it. So how do you pre-sale? How do you do that?
Pre-save.
Yeah.
I think, I don't know, considering it's our first time really putting this music out here, we're just beginning to cultivate the audience, so for us, there's not too much like pre-promotion on this record. We're trying to get it out there, listen to it, and then of course promote it afterwards.
Yeah.
And just what a lot of people have said and are kind of doing is that, for smaller artists, it sometimes is a little bit more beneficial to just get it out there so you have something to promote.
Gotcha.
Versus being like, hey, we have a very small fan base and we're going to tease them for 1,000,000 years, and since it's a small fan base, they don't really care all that much.
No, they just want the music.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
So for us, it's just like, let's get it out there and then have something to promote, have something to create videos for, have something for people to want to come see live.
Yeah.
And then for those of you watching, your Van Sessions comes out next week. So
cool.
that edit should be next week. And that was, you guys do 4 songs? I think you did 4.
Yeah,
right?
4.
4 songs there at the Monarch. Talk about that experience.
I had a blast. It was just a super fun show, great environment to play at. I thought it was really cool that we were in this like alleyway.
Art alleyway. Yeah, that was fun.
It was just super fun, unique show.
It was fun and it was chaotic.
It was a little bit of wind, it was a little bit of wild, and it was the only show we've done at that end of the alley. So thanks for being flexible, I guess.
Yeah, no, it was funny. I remember
fun.
setting
Super
up the kit for that when we got there, just trying to make sure that the drum kit wasn't going to fall over.
Yeah,
and
so for those, when you go to watch this Van Sessions episode with Grace and Silence, it was literally on a hill. Like we're trying to put a band on a hill. So you guys did great. I appreciate you working with us in that scenario. That was kind of fun and unique. All right. Well, I think that's all I had. What did I miss? Anything?
I don't know. I don't think I missed much. Unless you, I mean, I'm down if you want to just talk music, talk about, what you...
Well, I don't know. My fascination right now is with, and will remain with, how bands break out. And that's where I saw, I think it was a short or a reel the other day that somebody was like, just go play live shows. And I thought that was interesting because I'm like, well, where's the social sit in that? And why? Because that's what you used to do back in the day, was just go play live shows. But, there's
you hear a lot of, sorry, I don't mean, I apologize.
No,
go ahead.
I just don't, our record labels aren't showing up to live shows, are they?
No.
So why would that be beneficial advice?
I mean, obviously, word of mouth is still really important. Giving people a show that's good enough that they want to tell their friends about, that's still really important. And I think, because I hear that, just online from various established artists. And I think if you're already an established artist that came from that time period where that was the thing, that it's kind of easy to say that, right? But, without, especially if you don't live in a huge, music town, social media is it's your way to reach out. It's your way to promote yourself in a way that's going to have the highest chance of success.
Well, how often do you sell CDs out of the back of a car? That's an old grind too, but is there something that comes back around at some point where it's just like, this is how we got to grind now because social media is saturated, and now we're going back to basics and putting up paper flyers and posters.
Which we're actually heading to do after this.
After this, yeah.
Because it works. It's just that we forgot about it because we spent so much of our lives like this on our phone.
For sure. No, 100%.
And then, sure enough, when you walk into a bathroom and you're staring at the ad over the urinal, you're like, didn't know that was happening. I'm like, that's an old style kind of marketing that still works and still gets, the word out. And so I'm wondering if using more of that would be beneficial.
Yeah. And it's you kind of just got to try a lot of things, right?
Yeah,
You've got to be open to seeing what methods are going to work and being willing to fall down that rabbit hole.
Your band sucks, you can put it all out there, but if the music isn't good,
of course,
then it doesn't matter. So like you mentioned earlier, you got to practice a lot. You got to be good. You got to put out good music. Good music people are going to want to listen to over and over and over again. Otherwise, all the marketing is like,
For sure. No, and of course that's the main thing. And, thankfully, I've got a lot of great support behind me to be able to help me with creating opportunities around the music, So I've been very lucky in that I've been able to spend a lot more time just focusing on the music.
Yeah, so I'm hoping you don't have a plan B.
I mean, I don't know. I don't intend on going to college.
Chase is hedging a little.
Yeah, well, I'm having to figure out a plan B just for my parents' sake, just so they can get off my back.
It's a thing, for sure.
So yeah, that's something I'm having to figure out.
My parents are crazy.
But
have you thought about being adopted, Chase?
I don't know. That's a possibility.
I love it. I love the idea.
Yeah, but that's it. When you go all in and you burn the ships, as they say, you make different decisions and you really focus and so that's where you're at right now, I'm assuming. Right?
Yes.
And unless you're forced to by circumstances, you got to come up with a plan B.
No. I love doing this, so I want to do this for the rest of my life. So
I love it. Well, thanks for your time here on the show. I don't really know how to wrap this one. So thanks for watching, and check out the other episodes here at High Voltage SLC. This is Grace in Silence. Jace, Tyler, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it. On your show, by the way.
Thank you for hosting. It's always good talking to you.
Thank you for inviting me. I feel very privileged for the invite, so thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you. I appreciate it.
I try, we see, we fight.